Welcome to the Retirement Blueprint Show. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Tim Lofton, and Tim is the CEO of the Retire Blueprint. Tim, how are you today?
I'm great, Cynthia. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. It's always a pleasure to see you, and always a pleasure to be on the show with you, because you're delivering so much really good quality information to the viewing audience about how to retire with confidence, comfortably, and with peace of mind, most importantly.
Well, thanks. That's certainly our hope. We're very passionate about what we do and who we do it for, and it's been such an interesting time this last year in seeing how people have found such positives in easily a negative situation. Like, it would have been very easy for people to have been, oh, woe is me, and that's not how we've seen our clients. And just I think Dayton as a whole has really shown how amazing we are. This is just a great place to live in a great part of the country.
Yes, and very resilient, obviously.
Very
Ohioans are known for that. I'm an Ohioan, as you know.
You are indeed.
Born and raised. Love that. And I agree with you, because we did go through such a difficult time, obviously, Tim, when COVID 2020 first hit, obviously in 2020, of course. We saw that people actually found a new way to reconnect with each other. I noticed that in our neighborhoods, people were walking down the street together. Families were holding hands that you never saw out together before. People were so busy. And then the return of the family meal around the dinner table. That was really amazing as well. So how does that fit into the retirement strategy that you have in place? Are you seeing people coming in now that have a different view of how they want to spend their retirement years because of what we went through as a country?
I think I've definitely seen a resilience in the family structure. Just like you were talking about, I think people, sometimes it takes a situation like this to really drive home what's actually important. And the ability for family to connect and just kind of, it creates like, we need to do this. It's forced people to say, you know what, we're going to make time for this. We've seen a lot more people at home with work, which has been really cool. I know for me, when all this happened, our kids were not able to go to school. And so they were doing online learning, and to be able to shift and work from home for me was, it was awesome, because all of a sudden it's my work day, but I've also got interaction with the kids throughout the day and checking on them and making sure that they're turning in assignments, because you get those emails and it's like they haven't turned in their homework, and you go and ask them and they're like, oh yeah, I turned it in. And you're like, so we got to a point of kind of Ronald Reagan, trust but verify. Can you show me online where you actually submitted this? Back in our day, we would just say the dog ate it, and they're like, well, I turned it in, she just must have lost it.
That is so funny. Oh my gosh. Well, I agree with you. And obviously, let's talk a little bit about how, with moving forward now, we are seeing a lot of people that are buying vacation homes and second homes. Are you seeing that, Tim? And how does that fit into the retirement structure?
Well, one of the things, and I started in the early 90s. And it was just a completely different thought process than what you see today, where in the 80s leading up to the 90s, there was this push where everybody wanted to retire at 55, and they were going to join the country club and play golf all day, and that was like this American dream. And then people did that, and they're like, well, this is horrible. Like, I can't play golf every day. And first of all, you live in Ohio, so you can't play golf every day year-round unless you're going to move. And so there became this thought process of, well, we're going to buy a vacation home, and that way when the winter comes, we will simply move south or wherever that might be. And that will be the vacation plan for those extended cold weather months in Ohio. And you fast forward to today, and it's a completely different thought process. We talk all the time to folks that have already own a vacation home, and what do they tell you? I mean, if you own a vacation home, you go on vacation and you spend all your time doing what? working on the vacation home.
I was going to say reading,
right?
shopping.
Yeah, no, that's what you do, and your husband is fixing stuff, right?
Okay, exactly.
So, it became almost this, there was more work involved and more cost involved than the value that people were getting from it. And the whole idea was to create downtime and family time and fun time, and it ended up being a second job. And then the frustration if something breaks and you're hours and hours away from that place and trying to negotiate and have somebody fix it, and then the cost of management companies and all that type of thing if you're renting it. And so today, when we're talking to people about what should we do for those extended months, our advice really is along the lines of VRBO or renting. For extended periods of time. Find that place that you really like, develop a relationship with the owner, and commit and say, hey, I'll take this place 3 months out of the year, every year. And if you decide for whatever reason that you don't like that area, you're not stuck.
True.
And if something breaks, you make a phone call. If you need something replaced, you make a phone call. And you still go to the beach and have fun that day.
And read and shop.
And read and shop. So it's perfect for you, Cynthia, because that's what you want to do, is read and shop. So I really think that has become a staple. And when you look at the cost of it, the cost of ownership is not that much more expensive than the cost of rental. It really isn't. When you look at the taxes and the upkeep and the management fees and all of the other things that you're required to do, and you have that place year round versus only having the place for 2 or 3 months, it really is a pretty good deal.
Absolutely.
And even for the person that says, oh my gosh, I hate renting, I just feel like I'm throwing money away, and if I own a place, I'm building equity. Yes and no. I mean, most of the time for our clients, if they do have a vacation home, they do own it and they don't have any debt on it. But the upkeep cost is still what it is. They still have those taxes and all those other expenses. And if you look at that expense, a lot of times you can get a place for very close to that. And you know what? We put it in the plan. That's it. You decide that's what you want to do. We put that in as part of the plan that we create for somebody, and it's just an expense that we're expecting every year.
So they can find that tucked inside the retirement blueprint.
Without a doubt.
If they come in to talk with you and decide that this is what they would like to do, you can actually fit that into their plan.
Exactly.
I love that. So are you getting a lot of questions about things like that right now, Tim, and also bucket list items? Are you seeing bucket lists come through the door?
Yes. But bucket list items and the travel is not what you think. People have been reluctant. A lot of people last year passed on actually going to on a trip. They, for whatever reason, just felt more comfortable with kind of staying at home and riding it out. And so now they're just dying to go somewhere and and I think 2021 is going to be a big year for travel in general.
I do too.
Because people they've been cooped up in their house and they're tired of, the same things, and they want to get out and do stuff with their family. So I think that's going to happen. And on the bucket list side, too, I mean, one of the things that we do with our clients when they come in is, we have them create a bucket list, and we have them do it separate if they're a married couple, because we have 2 rules. The first rule is that they have to do the bucket list. The second rule is they have to do it separate. And then there's a third rule, and this is the important one: you don't get to make fun of your partner's bucket list item.
Tim, hold that thought, because I really want to dive into the bucket list with that specific thing that you just talked about, but I'd love to open up the phone lines first.
Okay.
But then I want to come back and dive into that.
All right.
To the viewers at home, the phone lines are now open. That number to call is 855-684-3485. What you're calling in today for is a complimentary consultation with Tim, and allow him to design the retirement blueprint for you. If you have any questions about how to retire comfortably with confidence, Tim has the answers for you. He's also offering you the Riskalyze report, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in our next segment as well, so you can understand what that means to you. But again, there's only 10 spots open this week, so please don't miss the opportunity to call 855-684-3485. Don't turn the channel. When we come back, we're going to dive more into the bucket list, and maybe you should be making your own as we talk about what ours would be. So we'll be right back after this very short commercial break.
As As you prepare for, transition into, and navigate retirement, there's one thing you're sure to have: questions. Lots of questions about retirement. Like, when can I retire? Will I run out of money? Who pays for nursing home care? And many, many more. We use the Beta Blueprint retirement planning software to help answer your questions. This program takes stacks of documents from every area of your financial life and converts them into one large picture. Just as you would never buy a house without seeing it first, why would you ever retire without being able to visualize it? By being able to see the whole picture, you can then make better decisions about your retirement. First, the blueprint looks at your top goals and concerns. Then, we look at your age and the trigger age decisions you have to make, like when to take Social Security, Medicare, and required minimum distributions. Next, we analyze your fixed income streams and compare that to your retirement lifestyle. For most people, their lifestyle exceeds their income, so we determine which assets to tap to make up the difference. When looking at assets, there are 3 key numbers we want you to know. The first number is the risk score of what you own. Every investor has a risk tolerance, and every investment has a risk score. The risk scale runs from 1 to 99, and the S&P 500 has a score of 78. We use a scientific framework that won the Nobel Prize for Economics for its ability to identify true risk tolerance. If you are taking too much risk, when would you want to know? The second number we want to know is the maximum drawdown of what you own. Maximum drawdown is the maximum loss from a market peak to a market trough. The maximum drawdown of the S&P 500 in 2008 was about 51%. What was the maximum drawdown of what you own? And the third number is your annual withdrawal rate percent. If you're taking too much here, you could run out of money. Finally, we look at your insurance and long-term care. Do you have life insurance? If so, what type, and does it expire? We analyze the income reduction from losing a spouse. We want to know if the surviving spouse will be protected. Have you planned for long-term care? Do you know all your health care options? Being able to put all this information in picture format is like watching holistic planning come to life. Your financial picture helps us identify the potential cracks and red flags in your overall retirement plan. Remember, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Discover the power of the picture for your retirement. Learn how to get a blueprint of your life.
Welcome back to the Retirement Blueprint Show. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Tim Lofton, and Tim is the CEO of the Retire Blueprint. Tim, a great show that we're having, and obviously talking about the fun way that you have couples design their bucket lists, and the only agreement is they can't make fun of each other's bucket lists. So let's talk about that. Let's continue.
Yeah, so this came from almost a divorce situation with a couple clients that went home, made their bucket list. The wife showed the husband the bucket list, and he just started making fun of the bucket list.
Oh, no.
And it escalated into this whole thing. And obviously, they got it's okay. They got through it. we were able to counsel and.
Yeah.
But you know, it's funny, and I don't even remember specifically what the thing was. Maybe it was like hiking the Grand Canyon or something, and you know, and he said something about, well, you know, you can't hike to the mailbox, and I mean, it was.
Oh my gosh.
It was this whole thing. And, you know, it's funny that, you know, we are different creatures, right? I mean, husband and wives, but it's like they've been married like 35 years. It's like, how did you go 35 years and not think that's not something that I should say out loud? I mean, it's just not. You know, you could just be supportive and say, hey, you know, that sounds like a great idea. I'm not going to do that, or, you know, I'm going to ride the donkey down. But if you want to hike, that's great. But that's not what happened. And anyway, that filter never went off, and it makes for a great story in the office.
Oh, it really does.
But the idea of the bucket list is so cool because, you know, a lot of times, you know, we get to retirement and we think, all right, I should have already done all my bucket list items. Like I should have already made my list and already written them down. And if I haven't accomplished them by now, I'm not going to accomplish them. And, one of the things that we talked about, and, I used to do a lot of pre-retirement planning for folks back in the day. And one of the things that I would tell people is, it's great to have these dreams. And I remember one that used to come up a lot was people would want to go to New Zealand. And they would say, oh, I want to go to New Zealand and I want to do hiking in New Zealand. And they wanted to do that in retirement. And, I was always like, well, why do you want to wait till retirement? I said, what happens if you get to retirement and you're like, well, I don't want to do that anymore? Because that's usually what happens. The things that we want to do in our 30s and 40s are often not the things we want to do in our 60s and 70s. True. And so it's a different set of bucket list items. Make that list. But the reason why those things never happen is they don't end up on the calendar. And we tell clients all the time, if you're going to make your bucket list and not put it on the calendar, it's just a piece of paper. It's not going to actually happen. You have to put it on the calendar. And the cool thing is when you start putting stuff on the calendar, you'll find a lot of times that you run out of calendar before you run out of things to do. Which, how exciting is that in retirement to have things to look forward to for the next 20 years?
My gosh, isn't that the goal, Tim, when you think about it? Because when you hit the retirement years, life begins again. We've talked about this in the past, that when we thought about retirement in the past, it usually meant that you were going to have the party, the cake, and people sat on the front porch with lemonade, right? It's not like that anymore. People are actually going out and they're doing things and they're starting their life all over again, which is amazing.
And I don't want to be cliche, but 60 is still super young.
Oh, of course.
And I'm not just saying that because I just turned 52, by the way. And
60 is super young.
It is super young. I mean, because we figured out that we did a segment on health. I think it was last week.
Yeah, health and wealth together.
We talk about, that people's eating has gotten better and exercise has gotten better, and just our education on staying healthy has gotten better, and that has led to the ability to be super active well into your 80s. And that's amazing. I mean, that's what retirement is designed for. But if you don't have a list of goals, just like with retirement planning, if you don't have a plan, then you're just kind of bumping along. And, it's almost like being in a pinball machine. You shoot that ball up into the machine and it just kind of bounces around everywhere. And that's not what we want to see for folks. We want our viewers at home to say, hey, this is an important thing. We need to get a plan together. Pick up the phone and call us. We will help you do that. You don't need to know anything. That's what we do. For 27 years, we've helped people put together plans to help enjoy retirement and to make retirement this amazing event. And so that's really where our passion lies.
And I love how you designed the retirement blueprint, Tim, because it makes sense. The different components that are in the blueprint, I'll just cover quickly before we open up the phone lines. You have income planning, investment planning, tax planning, healthcare planning, and estate planning. These are the 5 cornerstone essentials. And I think it's so important that you put that all in one diagram. That's so easy for people to understand that these are all part of the retirement blueprint.
They all work together.
Absolutely. Well, Tim, this is the perfect time for us to go ahead and reopen up the phone lines to the viewers at home. Would you agree?
Okay.
All right. To the viewers at home, the phone lines are once again now open, and I know that you're so excited to call in because they're already lighting up. The number is 855-684-3485. You're calling in today for the opportunity to have the retirement blueprint designed for you. When we started the show today, we had 10 spots available. Now we are down to only 5 spots, so please don't miss this opportunity. 855-684-3485. We have to take a very short commercial break. When we come back, we're going to have so much more about how to plan your perfect retirement. Please stay tuned.
When was the last time you saw your financial professional? Are you getting the most out of the strategy that was created for you? Although you've done a great job finding someone to help plan for your future, are you 100% sure that you were given the right strategy? We can help answer these questions and more with a complimentary second opinion evaluation. We will take a look at what you have in place and then help determine if you're well positioned to get the most out of your future retirement income. In the event that it is not, we can help by making suggestions and showing you how to get on the right path. You wouldn't get just one opinion when it comes to a major health decision. So why would you treat your most important financial decision with such disregard? Call today for your no-cost, no-obligation second opinion evaluation to see if you're getting the most out of your retirement income plan.
And welcome back to the Retirement Blueprint Show. My name is Cynthia DeFazio. I'm joined today by Tim Lofton, and Tim is the CEO of the Retire Blueprint. Tim, a great show we're having. I can always gauge that by the amount of activities that we're seeing with the phone lines. I mean, they are lighting up like crazy, and I love that. I want to dive in a little bit with this final segment today and talk to you about the Riskalyze report, because we are offering that as well. So what can you tell me about the Riskalyze report? Sure.
So the cool thing about Riskalyze is that it's an independent software. It's not something we own. It's designed independent, and I'm a big believer in having independent software. A lot of times you'll see firms that have kind of got this homegrown software that they've designed or built, and I always worry about the accuracy, because the data coming out is only as accurate as the data going in. And so we found this software a few years ago, and it actually won the Nobel Prize for economics.
Wow.
And so with that kind of standard, you know you can trust it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
so that's when we're going to put any information for a client out there and say, hey, here's what we think. It's super important that we believe in it and that they believe in it.
Sure.
And so the idea of the Riskalyze software, it does several different things, but one of the things that we really like about it is it builds a probability map that says, if you do these things, you have this amount of money and this amount of time to retire and this amount of income taking out. It basically looks at it and gives you a probability of success in that happening. And we can control that basically by the amount of risk someone is taking. And so this, again, is utilizing multiple groups within our firm, and the wealth management team will build out the investment piece while I'm examining and looking at the actual planning part of it. And so it's really neat to see that kind of come to life on the big screen in our office, and for people to be able to see it. The other thing that it's able to do, which is really kind of a neat feature, is it looks at historical values. And so what I mean by that is whatever is on your statement today, if you brought me your statement, Cynthia, and gave it to me, and I took all of your holdings and I put it into the software, it'll tell me exactly how your portfolio today actually performed in 2008.
Wow.
When the market went down and all the things happened with real estate, and we had that big market correction.
Absolutely.
40-50% is what a lot of people saw in a decline. It'll tell you how your portfolio did. And that's the time to know, when we look back at 2008, most of the people that we're seeing today were still working. Wow. And so it's a different thought process. And they'll tell you, hey, everything came back and we were good. But what if you were already in retirement when that happened? Because we had clients that went through that too, and it was a very different situation. If you think about the idea of taking income withdrawal, and so we talked about withdrawal rates, I think, in a previous episode, where if you're taking out 4% of your portfolio to live on, imagine if that portfolio drops 50%. Now all of a sudden the withdrawal rate that you're taking is way higher.
Absolutely.
And so the idea that now I've lost part of my principal on paper, and now I'm taking a larger percentage out, the fear of running out of money becomes a lot more real when that's happening to you at 65, 70, 75 than it was when you were maybe 55, approaching retirement and still saving, and you still had your income coming in and a paycheck, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Tim, let me ask you something, because so often a lot of people in the viewing audience, perhaps they don't even know what their risk tolerance is. How important is it for someone to know exactly where they are risk tolerance wise?
It's very important.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? 27 years of doing this, not all the time, but rarely do people actually have the amount of risk that they think they have.
Isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm. You will see where, we have a couple different questionnaires where they can go in and fill out and answer questions, and it will generate a general risk score for them. And we use this in Riskalyze as well, where it'll give them a number, and when we actually put their portfolio in, very rarely is their number anywhere close to where they thought it was.
Wow.
And it's not one way or the other. Sometimes they think they're more conservative and they're taking a lot more risk, or sometimes they're a more aggressive investor and they're taking a lot less risk than they thought they were. But the bottom line is that those should match up. One of the things that Riskalyze will generate is a report that is actually kind of a guideline to what people should own, but more importantly, what they shouldn't own.
Okay.
I mean, if you've defined what you don't feel comfortable with from a risk standpoint, then you shouldn't own things that could potentially violate your risk rules.
Sure,
right?
That makes sense.
And so understanding what you shouldn't own is actually as important or more important sometimes than understanding what you should own.
Absolutely. And Tim, is this ever indicated by someone's age with what their exposure should be in the stock market? What is your opinion on that?
I have a little different opinion, I think, than a lot of things that you might read in the industry. I don't think that there is any such thing as if you're this age, you should own X.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that thought process. It has to do with your plan, your risk tolerance, and where you are in life. I mean, we have people that have retired in their 40s because they sold their company. Okay? They're still retired.
Yeah.
But this is a different stage, but they could be in a same risk level as maybe somebody in their 60s because they simply don't have to take the amount of risk anymore because they have a lot more wealth. Then the flip side is we have people that sometimes will work into their mid 70s or even 80s that are still working, and so their tolerance for risk is higher because they still have a paycheck coming in, and so they're still a worker, right?
Absolutely.
And so when you start doing it by age or one of these, formulas that you read in a book, it isn't relatable to where a person actually is. And the one promise we make every person when they come in is we meet you where you are.
Exactly, and design the blueprint for that person.
Right.
Well, Tim, thank you for another amazing show this week. I can't believe how fast they go, but I always look forward to seeing you. To the viewers at home, most importantly, thank you for spending time with us again this week. The number on your screen to call is 855-684-3485. If you have any questions about retirement, Tim can design the blueprint for you. All you have to do is call in. Again, thank you so much for watching. Be safe, be happy, be blessed. We'll see you back here again next week.